We'll get started here in just a few minutes. There are a couple committees that we're running over this morning, so you can continue. All right, good morning, everyone. Pardon again our delay. Like I said, we had some exciting committees earlier this morning. Not that higher ed is not going to be full of excitement this morning. So with that, the House Committee on Higher Ed will come to order. The clerk will please take attendance.
Chair Glanville.
Present.
Rep. Rangans.
Present.
Rep. Colzar. Rep. Scott,
Present.
Rep. Burns,
Present.
Rep. Kofia,
Here. Say here. I jumped on.
Rep. Hill,
Here. It's rolling.
Rep. McDonald,
Present.
It's okay.
Rep. Kies, Rep. Vanderwall,
Present.
I was the caboose then.
Rep. Paquette,
Here.
Rep. Zorn, Rep. Bruck,
Present, remote for the last time.
See the space of it.
Rep. Masana.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 11 present, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Reingans moves to approve the minutes of the May 17 meeting without objection, so ordered. And with that, I'd like to welcome, I'm actually very excited to have Grand Valley State University joining us today. They're here to give an overview of competency-based education, and I think you've all heard me talk a little bit about that or advocate for CBE, the benefits that this style of educational programming can provide, especially in terms of meeting adult learners where they're at. Recognizing skills that are related to previous experience. Competency-based education also provides the flexibility that supports access to courses and programs. So I am pleased to have had conversations with a few institutions throughout the state already that are working in this space, and I'm especially proud to welcome Grand Valley State University here today. They are from my district. So they're going to give us an overview of exactly what CBE is, as well as answer questions about what a potential CBE-based program might look like at the university. So with that, I'd like to welcome Stacy Beeler from Grand Valley State and Kara Van Dam. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Stacy Beeler. I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs and Communications. I've been at Grand Valley now for about 11 and a half months, and I have to say it's been some of the best work of my 25-plus year career in Michigan. So I'm really proud to be here today, and I'm going to do very little talking and let Dr. Van Dam do most of the talking because she is by far the smarter person at this table. So, but just quickly, for those who may not be as familiar with Grand Valley, I wanted to give just a kind of quick high level. We are one of the younger institutions in our state. I'm going to move into a quick high level, some key points about Grand Valley. We were built in the 60s, created by the community for our community, and now, many years later, we serve every single county in this state. We have students that come from literally every single county, and while some people may think of Grand Valley as a West Michigan university, it is not. More than 40% of our students come from Southeast Michigan, and we're intentional on growing our entire state footprint. And while the numbers are a little early in our enrollment, people would probably cringe at me saying this out loud to jinx us. We are seeing record enrollment, record application, record housing starts for our students coming into the fall semester. So Grand Valley continues to be successful, and we're going to be leaning into that success with a real sense of innovation. So just a few highlights here. I spent 20 plus years working at Meijer, and so I've been trying to take one of our key messages, which is higher standards, lower prices, to Grand Valley. We consistently, in terms of tuition overall cost, are in the lower half of the public institutions in the state, while our outcomes measured by traditional things like graduation, employment, and particularly retention of our graduates in the state of Michigan, we're always at the top. And so we're proud to serve our state. We see ourselves as an asset, a brain gain for our state. And so when we talk about innovative programs like competency-based education, we feel that we have the agency to lead this because of our performance over the past several decades. So now I'd like to introduce Dr. Kara Van Dam. She's the Assistant Provost for Graduate Learning and Lifelong Learning and Graduate Learning. She's got 20 plus years in this space. She, like the chair, have a background in competency-based education, understand this space very well. So as we move through the program here, she will be more than ready to take your questions as we move into the materials. So thank you for your time and your attention today.
Thank you, Stacy. And so, yes, I'm the Vice Provost for Graduate and Lifetime Learning at Grand Valley, and I've been at Grand Valley for about 2.5 years. I actually came from the University of Maryland Global Campus, where I was Dean of the Undergraduate School, and prior to that, Purdue Global. And so I do have over 20 years building competency-based programs, as well as other types of programs as well, but that's in there. One of the things I want to just mention before I move into the next slide is, while not captured on here, I really want to emphasize our statewide reach. Part of my role at the university is also managing our regional campuses in Detroit, Holland, Battle Creek, Traverse City, and soon to be Jackson. We're excited. We have a new partnership with Jackson College. So we really don't think just about our local, we really think statewide. So when we think about and how to ground this conversation, when we think about where we are in Michigan right now, and this isn't new to any of you, right? We know that for companies to really be able to advance and grow, we need to provide our citizens a better roadmap to become the talented workforce that we need in technology, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and more. And to get there, they really need credentials. Those might be badges, they might be certificates. I'm agnostic about what the specific credential is, but that really provide meaningful and timely workforce relevant skills that can be immediately applied as they progress towards potentially a larger degree. It might be a bachelor's, it might be a master's, and they really need industry partners that are prepared to provide workplace experiences and professional pathways. I think one of the things we all can know as we think about our own learning journey is you learn best when you do, when you apply, right? And that real world application is really critically important. And it's one of the ways that competency-based education can really be a help. So I like to say there's really two bedrock principles of competency-based education. And how you sort of play with these two principles can manifest in a variety of different applications. So you probably are all familiar with Western Governors University. They have a particular way that they have approached competency-based education. Every nursing program in the country is a competency-based program. So there's different permutations to competency-based, but they all come down to really these two bedrock principles. The first is competencies measure not just what you know, but what you can do. And it's in the doing that you demonstrate the knowing. And then the second is that actually we all have the ability to learn really to the same level if we have the time we need to learn. So if time is variable, learning can actually be constant. And so, as I mentioned, these two principles really generate a variety of permutations, and I want to take each of these principles sort of one at a time. So competencies measure what you know and can do. So CBE is an approach to education that first defines competencies, what we want you to be able to do, and then assesses learning against those competencies, and if you can do it, then you get the credit for doing it, right? You check that box, whether that's a course, a credit, whatever it is, you have now gotten it. And because they do both of those pieces, right? It's not just I can tell you what I know, I can actually do. And so you've successfully attained that learning. The learning can be constant if time is variable. I want you to all think back to, your high school days or whatever. You might have had like a class that you were taking and you didn't have enough time, right? On whatever that topic was that you were trying to learn. And when that quiz came up, you weren't ready for that quiz because you hadn't had enough time to learn. Or you might have been in a different situation where the quiz came up and you were like, can we just take the quiz? Like, I knew this stuff 2 weeks ago. Can we stop talking about it, right? And so in traditional educational models, time is constant. We're all on the same schedule. We're all on the same clock. We all have to go lockstep together. But in the CBE model, we flip this. We say, look, different people need different amounts of time. You might need less time for this, more time for this. Time is variable, but we're all going to get to the finish line, right? We're all going to learn what we need. So I want to give an example that's not education-based, but let's imagine that we're all going to go out and take a walk, right? And so we've got a 3-mile trail that's around a little lake, and the goal is for all of us to go and walk around that lake, right? So the competency is, let's complete this walk around the lake. When time is constant, so let's say we're like, okay, we're going to all walk around the lake. We got 30 minutes. I run when chased. I am not making it around that lake. It's not going to happen in 30 minutes, right? So if you're a runner, you're going to be great. You're going to get around that lake. You're going to have time to spare, right? If you're a jogger, you're still going to be short. You're going to nearly get there, but you're going to be short. Meanwhile, I'm going to be looking at an owl in the tree, and I'm going to be halfway around the lake, and I'm not going to get to the end. So when time is constant, when we have a block of time, not everybody is going to achieve the goal. But now let's think about the same thing in time as variable. We are all just simply told, get around the lake, right? The runners are still going to run, and they're going to still do it in less time. The joggers are going to make it too. It's going to take a little bit more, and I'm going to make it too. Like, I'm going to get around. It's just going to take me an hour, right? And so when time is variable, we all get around the lake. And so one of the things we know, particularly when we think about the talented workforce that we already have, right? The workforce that we already have in the state and the talent that they need to develop, many of them are working adults, right? They have foundational knowledge. They have life experience. There are aspects that in that space are going to let them go faster, right? Because they're like, oh, I know this. I can speed up. But they also have financial barriers sometimes, right? They have life circumstances that may make them need to slow down. And so that's why competency-based education can be particularly powerful in this space, is it allows you to speed up when you can, and it allows you to slow down when you need to. But at the end of the day, you achieve the goal and you get the credential in your hand that actually drives us towards where we need to be in the state. Thank you.
Thank you both. I don't know if we have any questions, but I just want to add a couple of things and maybe ask a question of my own. So as you mentioned, Stacy, and I've mentioned before here, I have a fair amount of experience in this space as well. And I think one thing to add to your great example is when we think about competency-based education or competency-based credentialing, this is a process that many of us have experienced in our own work setting, right? When you get evaluated by your superior, there's generally a list of competencies or tasks that you are expected to be able to perform, and you get your evaluation where you do well here, maybe you're a novice here, and then you get training or something around those areas where you are weaker. And that's the same thing, really, that's what this is, right? It's allowing folks to take advantage of the education and training that they need and not waste time on the training and education they've already attained. So it's this recognition which fits so well with adult learners of all ages. I mean, we know this. So excited to hear this coming forward formally and how we address education. So with that in mind, just real quick, curious how you're actually implementing or plan to implement competency-based learning in the program. Is it across disciplines? Are you focused in one area? What does it look like to kind of start rolling this out, or do you have programs that are already in place?
Sure, thank you. So we have developed a plan that would actually create a competency-based education accelerator. And I want to also immediately ground this in the statewide approach that we mentioned before. Our goal is to not just do this at Grand Valley, for Grand Valley, and for the local community. It is really a statewide effort to create a platform and a system where faculty from across the state can come together and learn how to create the programs that they have in this framework. Obviously, we want to generate a lot of programs at Grand Valley as well. And so we are very focused on what are those areas that we know the labor market needs right now. The key skills in software development, in advanced manufacturing, as we seek to really confirm our right to have that space and the mobility space of the future. And so looking at a lot of technical and applied skills in that area. But again, our goal is to create an accelerator that will certainly ramp up the work that Grand Valley faculty are doing in this space, but also a place where faculty from across the state and from every institution can come and learn how to do this work. Because quite frankly, none of us can do this alone, right? This really has to be an ecosystem that is not just education institutions, but our employers, right, and our school districts, and our chambers, right. It all has to come together in this ecosystem, and we think that we are uniquely positioned to be the host, right, of this, but it really is a convening.
Thank you. Representative Reingans.
Thank you so much for being here. I am, in my mind, I'm trying to think of how this rolls out in a more widespread way, in a systematic way across our state to help address so many of our workforce issues that we have across so many industries. I just came from the Agriculture Committee where we were talking about farm equipment techs and how there is like a certification program. So this is on my mind. And I'm wondering how this fits in with the current funding models for students and learners to attain education and certifications. The funding is often semester-based or fixed time, as you describe it. So the funding is for an amount of time that the student needs to get the credential, but what you're saying is the time might not be generalizable because somebody might already be able to check some boxes and attain their degree. So how, to me, it feels like there's a tension in that. And how do we get the funding to adhere to the new, in my mind, way of assessing learners and pumping out the certificates and things that people need to get just to their next job? Another example that just popped in my head is the lead caregivers in childcare centers need to have a certain level of certification, and that's part of what's a choke point in our childcare system right now. How do we get them to check off as many boxes as possible on competency-based certification, but then also have the funding to help pay for them to get that training when that structure is different?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and I think there's a couple ways to do it. A couple ways that I've seen, a couple ways that I've done it. One is, you can have sort of the reasonable person standard, which says this is a course of study that 95% of people, this is enough time to get through it, right? And then what you do is you really make time very variable within that. So it may very well be, and I go back, if we think about, back to your high school days or college days where you're in a semester-based class and everybody's doing the same thing week 1. And maybe you already know that stuff and you could have started week 2 on day 2, but nobody let you, right? In this model, you get to actually speed up at that point. So you already know the week 1 stuff. You are on week 2, on day 2, right? And then you might need 2 weeks to go through the week 2 stuff, right? And I shouldn't even call it the week 2 stuff, but trying to keep this in that sort of model. And so if you have the runway is long enough that over the large chunk of time people can do the task, then you can have the variable behind that. The other thing is, and I want to just mention, there are institutions. Western Governors is the one a lot of people come to think about when you think about CBE. They have gone to a subscription model, I don't need to get into the weeds of, that is a very different model that sort of breaks that funding barrier, but that's a really heavy lift. And it doesn't play well in the ecosystem always of where funding sources come. The other thing I want to mention though, and this goes back as you were mentioning the agricultural tech, a huge and important part of this ecosystem is also our community colleges. Our community colleges are doing amazing work, and I'm very pleased. One of my roles at Grand Valley is to strengthen our community college partnerships, and we are expanding those. We have actually signed 4 partnership agreements, I think, in the last 3 weeks. And these aren't just sort of like, oh, we'll take your students and transfer. No, these are bi-directional partnerships where we say, you have this amazing program in this area. Grand Valley is sending students up to Northwestern Michigan College for their marine tech program, right? So it's really about really acknowledging and valuing the credentials that are happening at all educational institutions. And so that agriculture tech credential that you mentioned, it is also incumbent on Grand Valley that when someone comes to us with that, we say, yeah, we know how to count that. We know how it fits. We know how it becomes part of the larger degree, and we honor that learning. So that's also really critically important. That's not specific to competency-based. That's a general philosophy we have, that we are expanding the learning that we are allowing students to bring in with them. But I just did want to make that remark.
So kind of as a follow-up, I came from a rural town where not everybody wanted to go to college or university. And so I'm trying to think about how we can build on this process of using competency-based education to get people to where they want to get and not force them into something more that is maybe more expensive or more than what they actually need for what they actually want to be doing. And so that's, I think there's maybe some sort of general education that we can do, which I don't like relying only on that, but some sort of systemic incentivizing we could do somehow to get people into these shorter term, more accelerated training programs that use competency-based education to get them to this next step, which is only a little bit more and maybe only costs a little bit more and takes a little bit more time, but fills a lot of the gaps we have in so many of our workforces right now.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping we can get more into a plan or a system for that.
And I would say these are meant to be either standalone or stackable. And the reason why I say that is I think, one of the things that can be very frustrating for working adults who are trying to develop themselves professionally and get to the next level is they do something that was valuable to them in the learning space, right? They got this badge in digital marketing and it helped them, get a new role at their company. And then they say, I really like this. This is fascinating. I want to learn more. I want to do more with this. And then they go to the place that has the next credential and they go, oh, that's lovely. That's really nice that you did that. But you have to start over, right? We're trying to avoid that. So that's the stackability. But also, there are a lot of people who say, that's all I needed. That's all I wanted. I wanted this one thing and I'm good. Like I now I'm moving on with my life. That's fine too. So the whole idea is that this is maximum flexibility for the learner, right? For the person who should be the master of their own destiny, right? And so this says, if this is all you want and this achieves your goals, great. We got it for you and you can do it. And also, if you want to keep going, everything you've done already will count towards the next thing.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I do have some other programs that are working exactly as you described that we can chat about. And again, if anybody has questions about Stackable and what all those things mean, happy to help fill in the blanks on that as we move forward with this. Vice Chair Vanderwall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here and being in the west side of the state and not that many miles away. Of course, a lot of our students that graduate out of Mason County and Oceana and Muskegon County are attending Grand Valley. So we appreciate all you do. With this program and what you've developed, can you let us know what it's done to graduation rates? Is that accelerated and upped your average versus other universities?
So I would say we are early days in the specific competency-based programs. We are really looking to build this long-term with state support. But what I would say is that we have been actively engaging in programs that are more adult-friendly. And I'll call out one, again, with the underscore that I know that not everybody needs or wants a bachelor's degree. That doesn't have to be part of everyone's plan. But we do have a Bachelor of Integrative Studies that we launched several years ago that is designed for working adults who want to come back and complete their degree. It's available fully online, but there's also face-to-face and hybrid options if that's what you want. What we have seen in that program is a near 90% retention rate, which is crazy high. Right? That is really powerful. And what we're seeing is students graduating from that program not only very well prepared to go after what is next for them, but with a confidence, that they have really set a new standard in their families and in their communities in terms of their educational attainment. Our president, likes to say that a bachelor's is really, it is a key to social mobility and to generational grounding. And so we're very proud of the work we've already done in that space. We have more to do. We just launched a Bachelor's of Applied Science that is actually specifically designed for students who came from an applied associate's degree in a community college, degrees that four-year institutions have not always played very nicely with. And this degree is designed specifically for people coming out of those vocational technical tracks who want to pursue the bachelor's and really drive that. So we're doing a lot of work here. We think the Competency-Based Education Accelerator is the next logical step for us to really bridge these gaps.
Thank you. I want a quick pickup before we get to our next question. You said something that you're seeking state support. As you know, this is not an appropriations committee, so we may not be aware of what you're looking at, but can you just give us a little bit of an overview of what that might look like?
Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to?
You can.
Yeah, no, so I mean, we do have a proposal, and absolutely I'm aware that this is not the place. But, because we think there would be a statewide impact, we think an investment from the state would help us get this off the ground. And I don't know how much more specific you want me to be.
Maybe if others have questions, they can follow up on that. Okay. Rep. Hill?
Thank you. This is fascinating, and I can think of many examples where this is very, would open up all kinds of opportunities for many people. I have a question about, on the sort of supply side, campuses are unionizing. Grad students are unionizing. They've also done a lot of the teaching load in the more traditional model. So could you also, and certainly adjunct professor land is a desolate territory. That is not one that we, unfortunately, too many people are in that space. So they've gone off and they've done this traditional program. They've got the PhD, they've got the debt to show for it, and this incredible education. Could you talk about the supply side, the teaching side, and how that is going to be supported, and to make sure that the people who are doing the teaching and training are adequately supported?
Absolutely, and I have been an adjunct faculty member. I also know as a faculty member who has taught competency-based education programs, it is a different feel because I would say for better or for worse, when all of your students in the same place, it's very easy to know what you're supposed to lecture on that week, right? When all of your students are in a different place in their learning, all of a sudden it's a very different dynamic, right? And how do you help students where they're at? And how do you do that? And I think from my own perspective, as someone who has taught in this space and also as someone who has been a faculty trainer, I think there are several things that come into play. One is technology can help us in these spaces. There are a lot of adaptive learning platforms and systems out there that actually help, from a faculty member's perspective, track where everyone is and really know how to intervene and where to intervene in the most meaningful way. And so it's important that there is that support. The last thing you want to do is say, all right, go at it. Good luck, It really is a very different structured approach. And so one of the things that we've actually built into our plan is a very in-depth faculty training and faculty support because this doesn't work if the faculty aren't well supported. They can't in turn support students well. To the larger issue around academic tracks, as someone who also, I have my PhD's in linguistics. Like, come on, I wasn't that sought after, right? And so higher education administration, here I am. But it is. I think there is a challenge with just sort of our higher education model, the faculty pipelines, and I think that we are in a space of transition. But my goal has always been in my career that I do want faculty to feel supported, valued, always part of the community, regardless of their faculty status, and serve them well. And I think that we do a good job at that at Grand Valley.
All right, are there other questions this morning? Okay, well, seeing none, thank you so much again for being here with us today. I think it really helped shed a lot of light on this, and I can see wheels turning for a lot of us on how this could impact higher ed overall in the state. So thank you so much again, and there being no further business before the committee, oh, I will excuse absent members. Do I have a motion to excuse absent members? Second? And with that, we stand adjourned? With that, we stand adjourned.